I'd always thought my marriage to Emily was solid. 12 years, 2 kids, a cozy house in suburban Ohio. It was the American dream, right? But lately, something felt off. She'd started working late at her marketing job, or so she said. Her phone buzzed more than usual, and she'd snatch it up with a nervous laugh, saying it was just work. I'm not the jealous type, but the excuses piled up. One night, I found a receipt in her coat pocket. Dinner for two at a fancy restaurant downtown, dated a Tuesday she'd claimed was a team meeting. My stomach twisted. I didn't confront her then. I wanted proof. So, I started paying attention. Her late nights followed a pattern, every Wednesday and Friday. She'd come home smelling faintly of cologne, not her perfume, and her stories were vague. I decided to dig deeper. I checked our joint credit card statements online, charges at a hotel 20 miles away, twice a week. My heart sank, but anger simmered beneath it. I wasn't ready to lose everything we'd built without knowing the truth. The next Wednesday, she kissed me goodbye, claiming another urgent project. I nodded, playing the oblivious husband, but I had a plan. I'd follow her. I rented a car she wouldn't recognize, parked down the street, and waited. At 6 p.m., she pulled out of our driveway, her hair done up like she was going somewhere special. My hands gripped the steering wheel as I tailed her, keeping my distance. She didn't go to the office. Instead, she drove to that same hotel from the statements, a sleek, modern place called the Meridian. I watched her park, fix her lipstick in the rearview mirror, and stride inside like she owned the place. My chest tightened. This wasn't a meeting. This was something else. I sat there for an hour, debating whether to storm in or wait. Then I saw a man, tall, dark-haired, maybe 40, walking after her. He looked familiar, but I couldn't place him. My mind raced. Was this the guy? I needed to know. I wasn't just going to sit there and let my life unravel. Tomorrow, I'd make my move. Thursday morning, I woke up with a plan burning in my mind. Emily acted normal: coffee, toast, a peck on the cheek before she left for work. I smiled back, hiding the storm inside me. I wasn't just going to follow her again. I'd catch her in the act. The hotel check-ins were always around 7 p.m., so I had time to prepare. I called in sick to my accounting job, blaming a stomach bug, and spent the day piecing things together. I remembered that familiar man from the hotel parking lot. He resembled someone from her office, maybe that new VP she'd mentioned once, Mark something. I dug through her LinkedIn on our shared laptop. There he was, Mark Reynolds, Vice President of Strategy. Smug grin, polished bio. My gut screamed it was him. I needed evidence, not just suspicion. I checked her phone when she showered that night, unlocked, a rare slip-up. No text from Mark, but a cryptic message from Jen, same time, same place. Can't wait. Jen was her college friend, but this didn't sound like a girl's night. I screenshotted it, my hands shaking. Friday was the next late night. I'd go to the Meridian, but not as the cheated husband tailing her. I'd show up as the surprise she'd never expect. I booked a room under my name, one floor below the usual suite she charged to her card. The receptionist didn't blink when I checked in early, claiming a business trip. I wore a suit, blending in with the corporate crowd, and waited in the lobby with a newspaper I didn't read. At 6:45 p.m., Emily walked in, heels clicking, a black dress hugging her frame. She didn't see me behind the paper. She texted someone, smiled, and headed to the elevators. I followed at a distance, heart pounding. The elevator dinged at the 5th floor, same as the suite charges. I took the stairs, adrenaline fueling me. Room 512. That's where she always went. I lingered in the hall, hearing her laugh through the door. Then a man's voice, low, confident. Mark. I could have kicked the door down, but I held back. I wanted her to see me, to feel the shock I'd felt. I'd wait for the perfect moment. Tomorrow, I'd turn her world upside down. Friday night arrived, and I was ready. Emily left home at 6 p.m., same routine, another work emergency. I kissed her goodbye, my voice steady despite the rage bubbling inside. I drove to the Meridian, checked into my room, and waited. At 7:05, I saw her car pull into the lot from my window. She stepped out, adjusting her hair, oblivious to me watching. I gave her 10 minutes to settle in upstairs, then made my move. I'd overheard her on a call earlier that week, laughing about room service with someone. That gave me an idea. I called the front desk from my room, impersonating Mark, deepening my voice, adding his cocky tone. Send up champagne to 512, I said. Charge it to the room. The clerk didn't question it. I grabbed my key card, took the elevator to the 5th floor, and positioned myself near the stairwell, out of sight. The room service kid rolled up with a card. Champagne, 2 glasses, the works. He knocked on 512. The door cracked open, and there she was. Emily. Her hair was loose now, her dress slightly unzipped. She smiled, expecting her lover. Oh, perfect timing, she purred, then froze when she saw me step out from the shadows behind the cart. Her eyes widened, mouth dropping open. Tom, she gasped, voice trembling. I pushed past the stunned kid, who mumbled an apology and bolted. Surprise, I said, my tone ice cold. She stumbled back into the room, clutching the doorframe. What are you doing here? She stammered. I stepped inside, and there he was, Mark, shirt unbuttoned, lounging on the bed with a glass of whiskey. He shot up, spilling it on the sheets. Who the hell? He started, then recognized me. Oh shit. Emily's face drained of color. Tom, I can explain, she pleaded, but her voice cracked. I held up a hand. Don't. I've seen enough. The room reeked of her perfume and his cologne, a nauseating mix. Photos of our kids flashed in my mind. Our daughter's soccer games, our son's science fairs. This was her double life, laid bare. Mark grabbed his jacket, muttering excuses, but I blocked the door. Sit, I snapped. We're not done. Emily's panic was palpable, and I wasn't letting her off easy. This was just the beginning. The air in room 512 was thick with tension. Emily stood by the bed, hands trembling, her eyes darting between me and Mark. He sat back down, jaw tight, clearly calculating his next move. I closed the door behind me, the click echoing like a gunshot. Tom, please, Emily started, her voice shaky. This isn't what it looks like. I laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. Really? Because it looks like my wife's been screwing her boss in a hotel I've been paying for. She flinched, tears welling up, but I didn't soften. Mark cleared his throat. Look, man, I didn't know she was... Don't. I cut him off, glaring. You knew exactly who she was. I've seen you at her company picnic, shaking my hand while you smirked. He shut up, shifting uncomfortably. I turned to Emily. How long? She stared at the floor, silent. How long? I repeated, louder. 6 months, she whispered. 6 months. Half a year of lies, sneaking around, using our money for this. I pulled out my phone, showing her the screenshot of Jen's text. Who's Jen, Emily? Or is that just his little code name? Her face crumpled. It's him, she admitted, nodding at Mark. I didn't want you to find out like this. You didn't want me to find out at all. I shot back. I paced the room, fury and hurt warring inside me. The dinners, the hotel charges, the late nights. Our kids asking where mommy was. You threw us away for this. Mark stood again, hands up. Listen, I'm not here to wreck your family. We can all just walk away. Shut up, I snapped. You don't get to play noble now. Emily sobbed, sinking onto the bed. I didn't mean for it to go this far. It just happened. I stared at her, the woman I'd loved since college, now a stranger. You panicked when you saw me, didn't you? Thought he'd be the one at the door. She nodded, tears streaming. I wanted to scream, to break something, but I held it together. We're not done talking, I said. But you're coming home. Now. She grabbed her purse, still crying, while Mark slunk out, avoiding my gaze. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. The drive back was torture. Emily sat in the passenger seat of my rented car, staring out the window, her mascara-streaked face illuminated by passing streetlights. I'd made her leave her car at the hotel, didn't trust her not to bolt. Silence hung heavy, broken only by her occasional sniffles. I gripped the wheel so hard my knuckles whitened, replaying the scene in room 512. Her panic when I appeared, Mark's pathetic excuses, it burned into me. Say something, she finally murmured, voice small. What's there to say? I shot back. You've been living a double life, Emily. What am I supposed to do with that? She twisted her wedding ring, a nervous habit. I still love you, she said. I snorted. You've got a funny way of showing it. She flinched, but didn't argue. The house loomed ahead, dark except for the porch light I'd left on. Our neighbor, Mrs. Carter, waved from her yard, oblivious to the wreckage pulling into the driveway. Inside, the kids were with my sister, prearranged, thank God. I couldn't face them yet. Emily hovered by the kitchen counter, looking lost. What now, she asked. Now. I dropped my keys with a clang. Now you tell me everything. No more lies. She nodded, sinking into a chair. It started at the company retreat, she began. Mark and I were on the same team for some stupid bonding exercise. We clicked. It was innocent at first, lunches, coffees. Then, she trailed off, shame coloring her cheeks. Then you started banging him in hotels, I finished, voice flat. She winced. I didn't plan it. I was stressed. Work, the kids, us. You were always so busy with your spreadsheets, and he listened. Don't you dare blame me, I growled. I was home, raising our kids, while you played house with him. She buried her face in her hands. I know I messed up. I panicked tonight because I knew if you found out, it'd all fall apart. It has, I said. But we're not done. Tomorrow, we figure out what's left, if anything. She looked up, eyes pleading, but I turned away. I needed air, space, anything to process this. The woman I'd married was gone, replaced by this trembling liar. Sleep wasn't an option, not tonight. Saturday morning dawned gray and heavy, matching the weight in my chest. Emily slept on the couch. I couldn't stand her in our bed. I'd spent the night pacing, replaying her confession. 6 months with Mark. Lunches turning into late-night trysts. Our savings footing the bill. I brewed coffee, the bitter smell grounding me as she shuffled into the kitchen, eyes red. Tom, she started, but I held up a hand. Not yet. I need to think. She nodded, retreating to a stool. The kids would be back soon. My sister texted they'd had fun at the aquarium. I had to shield them from this mess, at least for now. I sat across from Emily, forcing myself to ask the question gnawing at me. Why didn't you just leave me? She blinked, surprised. I didn't want to. I love our life, our family. Mark was an escape. An escape, I repeated, incredulous. You risked everything for a fling? It wasn't a fling to me, she said softly. Not at first. But when you showed up last night, I realized how stupid I'd been. Her words stung too little, too late. I pulled out the credit card statements I'd printed, sliding them across the table. $3, $200 in hotel charges. Dinners. That spa day you said was a work bonus. All She scanned the pages, paling. Most of it, yes. Rage flared again. You used our money, our kids' future, for your double life. She started crying again. I'll pay it back. I swear. With what? Your salary's half mine anyway. I snapped. The doorbell rang, my sister, dropping off the kids. I forced a smile as they barreled in, hugging me, oblivious to the tension. Emily wiped her face, playing normal for their sake. After they ran upstairs, I turned to her. We need rules. You sleep downstairs. No more work nights unless I verify them. And you tell Mark it's over, on speaker, with me there. She nodded, defeated. Okay. I didn't trust her yet, but I wasn't ready to torch 12 years over one night's revelation. The kids deserved better than a broken home, at least until I figured out if she could earn back an ounce of my faith. Her panic last night had cracked her facade. Now I'd see if she could face the wreckage. That afternoon, I made Emily call Mark. The kids were napping, giving us a narrow window. She sat at the dining table, phone between us, her hands fidgeting. I leaned back, arms crossed, watching her dial. Put it on speaker, I said. She did, the ringing filling the room. Mark picked up on the third ring, his voice smooth, oblivious. Hey, babe, you okay after last night? Emily's eyes flicked to me, panicked. Mark, it's over, she said, voice shaky. Tom knows everything. Silence, then it occurred. What? I showed up at the hotel. I cut in, leaning toward the phone. Caught her when she thought you were at the door. Game's up. He cursed under his breath. Look, man, I didn't mean, save it, I interrupted. You're done with her. No calls, no texts, no work meetings. I see your name pop up anywhere near her. I'll make sure your wife knows too. Emily's head snapped up. Apparently, she hadn't known Mark was married. You're married, she hissed. Mark stammered. It's complicated, not my problem, I said. Stay away, or I'll uncomplicate it for you. He muttered something about keeping it civil before hanging up. Emily stared at the phone, stunned. He never told me, she whispered. Guess you weren't the only one with secrets, I said, voice dripping sarcasm. She buried her face in her hands, shoulders shaking. I didn't comfort her, couldn't. Her double life had layers I hadn't even peeled back yet. You're telling me you didn't know? I pressed. I swear, she said, voice muffled. He said he was single, separated at worst. I didn't buy it fully. Her judgment was already shot, but it didn't matter. Mark was out, and I'd monitor her phone to make sure. Later, I checked her messages while she showered. No new text from him, but a thread with her friend Lisa caught my eye. Mark's intense, but Tom's clueless. I've got it handled. Dated 2 months ago. My blood boiled. She bragged about fooling me. I saved the screenshot, more ammunition if I needed it. When she came downstairs, I didn't mention it. I'd hold that card close, watching her every move. She'd panicked once. I'd make sure she never forgot who held the power now. A week passed, tense and quiet. Emily stuck to my rules. Couch sleeping. No, late nights, handing over her phone when I asked. The kids sensed something. Our daughter asked why mommy looked sad, and I mumbled about grown-up stuff. Emily tried to rebuild trust, cooking dinners, asking about my day, but her efforts felt hollow. I couldn't unsee her in that hotel room, all dolled up for him. Wednesday rolled around, her old Mark night. I tested her. Work called. I lied. Need to head in late. You okay here? Her eyes flickered, but she nodded. Of course. I left, circling back in the rented car, parking out of sight. At 7 p.m., her car was still in the driveway. No text to Mark on her phone. I checked earlier. Maybe she was behaving. Or maybe she was smarter now. I came home at 10, finding her on the couch, watching TV. Everything okay? She asked, tentative. Yeah, I said, studying her. No cologne, no lipstick smudges. Progress, maybe. But trust wasn't back, not even close. I hired a PI the next day, a guy named Rick I found online. Discreet, ex-cop, pricey but worth it. Follow her for 2 weeks, I told him. Work, home, anywhere else. I need to know. Rick nodded, no judgment. Got it. I'll report daily. That night, Emily asked to talk. I'm trying, Tom, she said. I was pleading. I ended it. I'll quit the job if you want. Quit. I raised an eyebrow. And explain that to the kids how? She faltered. I just want us to work. Then prove it, I said. Words don't mean shit after what you did. She nodded, tears brimming. Rick's first report came Friday. Emily went to work, came home. No detours. Clean so far. But I wasn't naive. Her panic at the hotel showed she could crack under pressure. I keep pushing, testing. Saturday, I left her phone on the counter, unlocked, while I showered, a bait. I watched from the hall. She hesitated, then picked it up, typing fast. I stepped out. Who's that to? She dropped it, flustered. Just Lisa. Checking in. I grabbed the phone, true, a harmless text. But her jumpiness said plenty. Trust was a long road, and I wasn't sure we'd make it. Rick's report stayed clean for a week. Emily's routine was mundane. Work, home, grocery runs. No Mark, no hotels. I almost relaxed, but that Lisa text nagged at me. Tom's clueless. She'd gloated about her double life once. What else was she hiding? I dug deeper. Sunday, while she took the kids to the park, I searched her laptop. Old emails, deleted files, jackpot. A folder labeled Work Miscellaneous held photos. Her and Mark at a bar, his arm around her. Timestamped 4 months ago. Another of them kissing in a car. My stomach churned. She'd archived her affair like a scrapbook. Then I found an email draft, unsent, dated 2 weeks before I caught her. Mark, I can't keep this up. Tom's asking questions. Maybe we should end it. She'd chickened out of sending it. She'd known I was close and still chose him over us. I printed everything, tucking it in my desk. When she got back, I played dumb, but my mind raced. Monday, Rick called. She met someone at lunch today. Not Mark, some woman. They hugged, looked close. Where? I asked. Coffee shop near her office. I've got pics. He emailed them, Emily with Lisa, the real Lisa, laughing like old times. Innocent, maybe, but Lisa knew about Mark. Was she complicit? I confronted Emily that night. Talked to Lisa lately? She froze mid-dishwashing. Yeah, today. Why? She knew about Mark, didn't she? Her silence was answer enough. She encouraged it, Emily admitted. Said I deserved fun. Fun, I repeated, incredulous. You bragged to her I was clueless. Her eyes widened, caught. How? Doesn't matter. You're still lying by omission. She sank into a chair. I didn't want her to judge me for ending it. Too late for that, I said. Anyone else in on this? She shook her head, but I didn't believe her. Rick's next report mentioned a burner phone in her purse, missed earlier. I hadn't seen it at home. She was still playing games. That night, I found it in her coat pocket, dead battery. No calls logged, but its existence was a gut punch. Her double life wasn't dead, it was just quieter. I'd have to push harder to bury it. 2 weeks after the hotel, I had enough. Rick's photos, the burner phone, the Lisa connection, it painted a picture of Emily I couldn't unsee. She begged for a second chance, but every discovery chipped away at my resolve. Tuesday night, I laid it all out. She sat on the couch, hands clasped, as I dropped the printed emails, photos, and phone on the coffee table. "What's this?" she whispered, paling. "Your double life," I said. "You didn't just cheat. You documented it, hid it, kept a lifeline with that burner. You're still lying." She shook her head, frantic. "The phone was old. I forgot it was there." "Bullshit," I snapped. "You panicked when I showed up at the hotel, and you're panicking now because you're caught again." Tears spilled, but I was numb to them. "I wanted to fix us," she sobbed. "You wanted to not get caught," I corrected. "There's a difference. I talked to a lawyer that morning. Divorce papers were an option, but the kids stopped me cold. Splitting custody, uprooting them, it felt like punishing them for her sins. Here's the deal," I said. "You quit your job tomorrow. No more Mark, no more Lisa, no more secrets. I get full access to your accounts, phone, everything. One slip, and I'm gone, with the kids." She stared, stunned. "You take them." "I'd protect them," I said. "From this mess you made." She nodded, defeated. "Okay, I'll do it." Wednesday, she resigned. HR emailed me confirmation. She cut Lisa off, handed over passwords. Rick tailed her one last week. Nothing. She was clean, or scared straight. Months later, we're still together, but it's fragile. The kids laugh again, oblivious, and Emily tries. Therapy, transparency. I don't trust her fully. Maybe I never will. Her panic that night unveiled more than an affair. It showed me who she could be. I stay for the family, but I watch. Always. Her double life's buried, but I've got the shovel ready if it stirs again.